everybody. Welcome back to Behind the Joystick. I'm your host today, Cordy Yikes, and I have with me TJ. How are you today?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you're here. For people who don't know you, and the abundance of things that you do, tell us about yourself.
Well, so my name is TJ Stevens, Director of Esports at the University of Georgia. That's what I do scholastically mainly. And then outside of that, I do a lot of things. So I'm a TED Talk speaker, a colleague analyst, a head coach for Ghost Gaming under the Georgia Ghosts and the Ultimate Endgamers League. And then
That's
in the
awesome.
last year, I have been Club President of the Year from Esports U. And then there's one more I'm forgetting, Rising Star here at UGA. That's what I got. so
That is
so
awesome.
just involved in a lot, doing a lot, but casting is my main thing, and that's what I am about to do this weekend. I'll be casting the CRL Fall Open, so excited for that.
That is awesome. I saw that on Twitter, where you were signing your paperwork. I have this announcement. I'm ready to show you
Love that
guys. And
contract gif. Love that contract
yes.
gif. It's so stupid.
It's the best one. I've got something cool. I'm doing paperwork over here. Now, also something kinda wild that you and I have just talked about is that the you haven't started this in 2020. You are 20 years old.
That's the first
Yeah.
time I've heard that as a misconception, but honestly, with COVID, that's not a bad misconception to have.
Oh,
That'd be
no.
reasonable. No, yes, I am only 20 years old. I'm a third year at UGA, or this is my third year at UGA. I did just switch majors though, so might be here a
That's
little
awesome.
longer.
Oh, no. What are you, trying to I guess, what's your end goal in college?
So originally I came in here, I was like, esports is a really good side gig for me. And then I was like, esports is becoming my main gig.
Right.
So I'm just aligning my major to better support my needs. And so I'm going from business management to journalism.
Oh, that's awesome. So you still have, like, a little bit of the business side stuff that you can kinda carry with you,
Good
but
base
now you're into
experience.
journalism. How's that going?
At UGA, I couldn't be in better hands. Grady is a great college for me to be at, and eventually I'm going to go from being in journalism to applying to go into sports media here. And so
Mm,
that's I think what as a child I really fell in love with. I think that's why casting's always been a good kind of outlet for me.
for sure.
But now it's just about actually doing something where I don't travel somewhere, like work an event, and then I come back and I'm doing calculus or I'm doing taxes. Like it's
Right.
just not a good use of my time.
For sure. So, I guess in the beginning, since you just said that esports was more of your hobby and now it's become something bigger, let's start with that. How did that, I guess, arise?
Yeah. So I was very fortunate that whenever I was coming up into the esports pipeline, we're talking right before COVID, like 2018, 2019. I was a sophomore. Actually, we can go back even further than that. I was a freshman in high school. And originally, I've always been a Rocket League fan, been a player, but competitive gaming wasn't something that I was considering per se. And
Mhm.
then once I saw a poster, and I talk about this in my TED Talk as well, I saw a poster for my esports program my freshman year, but I didn't want to go because of the culture and the social, I guess, negative social credit. It's a really bad way to say it. That came with being in esports at the time because it was just so new and so looked down upon. So because of that, and being from a traditional sports family, like my dad's been the head coach of all my sports teams, that type of thing. I didn't really feel like esports was for me. And then
Mhm.
as I kept playing Rocket League and then seeing what Play VS did in the state of Georgia, that kind of induced me to say, you know what, it's probably time for me to give it a try. And so my sophomore year, I joined competitive Rocket League at my high school. Went to a state championship that first year, and we did lose that state championship pretty badly. Uh, but but since then, I've just fallen in love with esports, and then that kicked off my career in a way.
That's awesome. Even though you did lose, it's still the opportunity that did happen, which I would take that. That's a win.
Yeah, got to meet a
Now,
lot of really influential people as well. It was awesome.
for sure. And now this also led you into like TED Talk. How did that experience even come up?
Yeah, so throughout all my high school experience, I was lucky enough to be in both a player and a leadership position. And so that gave me my base foundation on esports. And so coming into UGA, I took over the program my freshman year. 2 months before I started my first classes at UGA, I became director of the program. That's how I don't want to say bad, but that's how rough the situation was here to where the
Right.
leadership roles were just being thrown around. And so because of what I was able to do with UGA or esports at UGA, over my first year and a half, whenever my mom saw the applications to be a TED speaker at UGA, because TEDx UGA happens every year. It's this awesome collaboration of speakers across the Athens area. And so my mom saw that and sent it to me, and she said, "You should definitely apply for this." And I was like, "I don't know if I'm ready to be a TED talker at 19, but
Right.
but then I applied, and then I was a finalist, and then I did an interview, and then before I knew it, I was in the final seven, um, and then I got the chance to do that. So that was something incredible.
That's awesome. How rough was the space for you to become a director? Was this during the pandemic or was this like a little bit after or
So I graduated in 2022.
Mhm.
That's me graduating high school. So luckily, it was towards the back half of the pandemic.
Right.
But unluckily for the program, it struggled a lot during COVID. The program did a really good job of creating an in-person community aspect, and it kind of
Mhm.
lost that virtual touch as well, which isn't a bad thing. But obviously, throughout COVID, that not only ruined the community a little bit, but also ruined the club dynamic as well. So because I was coming out of COVID, I was able to slide into that role.
That's awesome. And then so that also led you into esports U gaming. What is that about?
Esports U is God, I don't even know how to describe it. They have their hands in just about anything and everything collegiate. The official account, all it says is that they're the official Twitter, of the Collegiate Esports Commissioners Cup, which is CECC is the largest collegiate event easily
Yeah.
every single year, and it was a pleasure to be there this year. And I went to the one in Atlanta in 2022 as well, and I didn't even realize that I met so many people that I talk with daily now. Um, so that Esports U is just a very ironically, it's a small piece in collegiate esports, but yet they are one of the largest because it's just such a vast field that we work in. And so
Mhm.
through that, I got to meet a lot of really cool people. I got to work pretty closely with NECC, with the Esports U team. Shout out Torian and the entire crew.
Oh,
And then
absolutely.
through that, I simply just saw that nominations went up, and then I was campaigning for myself and UGA, and then next thing I knew it, I was in Texas, and then I was on main stage accepting my award. So that was
Oh, that's
awesome. Club
awesome.
President of the Year was a specific thing that I got, but I was also up for Rising Star of the Year, and I was up for that. Actually, might be it.
And that was this year in the Arlington one, right?
Yes,
What day was that for? Was that because I went, I think Saturday and Sunday I was there.
I believe I received my award. I want to say it was Saturday. I could be wrong. Maybe it was Friday. But it was one of the first 2 days. It wasn't Sunday because I was already on a plane back home.
Right. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
then now, what part of this, because you've also mentioned that you are with Ghost Gaming, you're a coach there. How did that, is that before all this or is that after they saw you or how
So
did that go?
I met Todd Harris, who runs everything over at Ghost. I met him my senior year of high school, and then from there, the director of the Ghost Gaming Academy, his name is PK Graff. He's easily my top mentor, someone who's been with me every single step of my career. And so we had this dream of a professional org taking on the mission to have a step or a hold in the collegiate space. And so
Mhm.
we had this program. The Collegiate Ambassador program was something that we dreamt up and wrote and like kind of wrote out. And then PK went, proposed it to Todd. Todd loved it. And so the Collegiate Ambassador program is something that I currently run alongside PK at Ghost. And then because of my involvement through that, which that was my freshman year in college. And so then through my involvement through that, then that opened up the doors for, hey, Ghost decides they want to come back into pro esports. And I was lucky enough to be one of the first people considered for the head coach spot. And so that's what I'm doing now.
That is so cool. And shout out to PK. I went to the Creator Summit and I saw or I picked up one of the books. What was it called? The Mindful Gamer.
Yep.
It is so good. I did not
Yeah.
know I needed that in my life because I was like through a burnout and it was like, oh, so how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about that? And I was like, wait a minute, I actually needed this in my life. So
I've been
thanks for the
spoiled, that's
book.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess in the beginning of all this, like in the college space, what would you say? would probably be like advice you would give to someone in the scholastic space um, who wants to do the things that you're doing?
Oh man, it depends on what we're talking about, about which of the million things I'm doing. No, in terms of collegiate in general, I can say this. One thing that I love so much about this community is the fact that it's so incredibly open, which some people see that and they see a collegiate event that's maybe ran by students and they say, this isn't professional or this isn't ran as well as it could be. That's kind of the whole point.
Right.
Collegiate esports is a space that everyone should be able, it's like a minor league. So people should be able to learn, people should be able to grow and not only do that individually, but do it together as well. And so if you are in the collegiate space and you're not doing anything, it's not a hard road. It's as simple as if you're not in a place of leadership, DMing your leadership or messaging your leadership and saying, hey, I'm interested in doing this, whether it's casting, social media, event planning, anything like that, and saying, I would love to be a part of this. And if your college already has that full, then there's probably regional leagues around your area that do a great job at providing internships. Two leagues I can shout out immediately would be the Great Lakes region. They literally have a Great Lakes dedicated Rocky League crew, and they have literal interns. That's a huge professional thing to be a part of. And then myself
Yeah.
personally, I'm the event coordinator for the Southeastern Esports League, and I would vouch for them a million times over because they're the ones who actually gave me a chance in my casting career when I was very, very new to the whole thing. And I just simply sent a DM. I was like, hey, do you guys want some community stream coverage of some kind? And then I did that. And then that worked me into a paid role. And then now I'm on the staff team. So it's not a tough road for anyone in collegiate. You just have got to decide what you want to do or don't, or learn. And if you don't like it, that's cool too. Just put yourself out there. It's as simple as that. Much easier said than done, though.
Right. What I'm learning is you'd rather have the opportunity to get a bunch of no's just so you're able to hear one yes, which is like the best thing I wish I had in high school because I feel like I was in a position where I was like, no, I'm going to get a no anyways. I'm not even going to do the outreach. But it's like, why not try for the no's in hopes to get a yes? Which probably also, since we're talking about castings and stuff, um, for that, what would you say is like key traits to developing for all that?
For casting,
Yeah.
oh man. Um so for me, so Rocket League is my strongest game, and that's what I
Mhm.
built my career off of. And for me, I was a competitive player for so long that I already had the base knowledge of the game, not base knowledge, advanced knowledge of the game
Right.
to use in my casting. And that's something that I took for granted originally, but that is the absolute bare minimum is having knowledge of the game that you're casting. No matter what it is, you've got to know what you're talking about, or else even if you sound confident, players are still going to sniff it out and they're not going to enjoy what you do no
Right.
matter how much effort you put into it. Now, that kind of segues to the other half of learning how to cast is you have to find yourself. Like people who've seen my Twitch, who've seen my clips, you know that I'm very loud, very energetic. Me and CRL caster Bass from the past, Oliver, we're good friends. I like to think that me and him both have really similar casting styles. And that is the reason, not the sole reason why I think that we're both doing so well, but it's something
Mhm.
that people hear and they recognize it and they say, oh, that's so and so. Or I would love to have this person do this specific event because this style matches that. And that goes for whether you think you're boring or not. If you're just a pure analyst, people still need analysts. Casters need analysts to throw to. And if you're a pure play by play caster, that's cool too. You're not going to get an analyst job, but if you're loud and exciting and you know the game enough to follow, then that's still a role that needs to be filled. So know the game, find yourself, stick to it.
For sure. And then I guess now, since we're speaking of analysts, the collegiate GG, your
Colleague.
colleague, dyslexic, sorry. But you help them do the analysis sides of that. What would you say would probably be like the most impactful thing that you can focus on there?
So Colleague does two biggest public polls in all of collegiate Rocket League. That's what they
Mhm.
spend a lot of their time in is collegiate Rocket League. And so they do the Colleague 48 and then they do the Colleague Top 30. Those are the two snapshots that are done I believe every 2 weeks if I'm wrong. We'll see. I only just got to join recently, so I could be wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I joined a month ago. So
Oh,
so they do those polls, snapshots of the standings of Collegiate Rocket League and who's power ranked at what and who's placed where, who's better than who. Those are conversations that spark a lot of interest. The most recent poll that I was a part of that went out October 16th, it's got 40K impressions right now. It's got 29 comments and 44 retweets.
wow.
So that right there, like in terms of Rocket League community discussion, that right there is the most impactful thing that I get to do with Colleague. It's me, and I believe for the Colleague 48 poll, I think there's like 20 analysts. But then I'm also on the top 30 poll group, which I think is like people. So it's an honor to be a part of that and be considered somebody who knows ball within the Rocket League community.
Right.
And those conversations, getting to not only lead those, but then to get to attach my name to that is something that I put work into and that I deeply care about. It's really cool to see how the community takes it.
Yeah, so you've only been here, on this side for, like, a month? How what is, like, the day-to-day? Like, how did you get into, like, part this next level of you?
Yeah. Colleague specifically, that is something that, like, if I read off the roster of all the analysts, you're gonna recognize those names. Those are
Mhm.
household collegiate Rocket League names. Like you have Mr. Bepic, you have Danger Taco, you have Bast, you have Seb, you have Vaudable. Those are all people who you look up collegiate Rocket League, those names are right there with it. And so for me specifically, like not I guess at the top yet, but
Yet.
because of yeah, but because of my standing within the Southeast and within the East Coast, and now only recently nationally, that has been how I've gotten to be on there. That's an invite only position.
Oh, wow.
And so Dart, the guy who runs Colleague, the founder, owner, however you want to word it, he's incredible. He reached out to me directly through DMs before CRL got started this year, and he was like, "Hey, like, do you want to join us on the poll?" And obviously I'm not declining that. So
Exactly.
I guess through all my work I've gotten to be known as like a national slash regional voice. Me and Bepic do a really good job of representing the Southeast, and I think that that's why we're both on that poll. He's been on there longer than I have, but I'm just glad to be there young in my career.
Right. So, for that, what would, like, a Rocket League space, what would your, like, today be? Whether it's analytics, casting, ghost gaming, like, in the vast majority of things, what would you say, like, week would be in everything you do right now?
A lot of praying. No, I'm kidding. No, it's a lot, and it's a lot more casting and analytics than it is coaching. The
Mhm.
Ultimate Endgamers League is something that we could talk about if we have time, but it is its own beast, and so I do spend a fair amount of time every week coaching. But that's not taking up the majority of my week, and most of those practices are like 9 to 11 p.m. at night, so they don't really get in the way.
Right.
Casting and staying up to date, especially like something like the CRL Fall Opens, which take over like the place of an entire weekend.
Mhm.
That is what a lot of my weeks have been, at least the last 2 months, has been following not only the main CRL events, but there's a lot of regional events going on too. So just staying up to date, watching Twitch streams. There's always something going on every day to follow or to note down. Every Wednesday night, I'm the host of the Southeastern Esports League, and so right now we're in our playoff stage, and so that's a lot of what I'm doing right now is making sure that I
Yeah.
have the right notes and points to mention on broadcasts, and whoever my co-caster is for the week, making sure they're up to date. Um, so it's mainly a lot of casting, a lot of keeping up, which that's just esports in general, because
For
also as an
sure.
industry, I try to keep up with the best I can too, because I've gotten the opportunity to be known as an industry professional. So so I try
That's
to
awesome.
keep up with that too. So I a lot of Twitter, I guess, and not in a bad way, but more as in a news source type of way.
Right. Do you ever feel, like, burnout? I mean, everything you do you ever have to, like, yourself away from months at a time, or do you just, like, for inspiration to kinda, I guess, get your ball rolling still?
Yeah, so luckily because I am 20, I've only experienced burnout once because my career only just started getting big over the last 2 years. So
Mhm.
before this semester started, I had a pretty rough time trying to figure out A, what I wanted to do in my career and with my school career. Hence why I ended up switching majors. But with that, that put me in a place where it definitely is tiring. And one thing that, and this might go into what we were going to talk about later, but in terms of like my advice to casters, because this is where my burnout came from, I was volunteering to do so much, work so much, be involved in so much, travel all these places, go work these events for free. And it got to a point where there has to be a limit to it. Obviously, one of my biggest things that I like to preach is that you're never too big for anything in collegiate. Like is on the same playing field, no matter how high up the food chain you are per se.
Right.
And so I had to transition from being a small fish in the whole, a really stupid analogy, being a small fish in the entire pond to being one of like the bigger voices in the scene.
Mhm.
And so that burnout came from me doing so much and pouring my all into it because my level of work had gotten up to a point where now I've had to realize and step back and say that my work is worth more than what it was last year, and I can't work in as many events as I would like to,
Mhm.
because I have to value myself. And so that's what a lot of my burnout was just realizing the value that I've created within my own career and within, I guess my name within what DJTJ stands for. Um, and so just stepping back and realizing my own personal value and also picturing where I wanted my life to be.
Nice. Do you think that you're filling that bucket up again to where you might be burning out again? Or do you think you have
So
everything like laid out just enough to not fall?
no, I actually I really like where I'm at as of right now. I think the only thing that I would change is obviously like on the CRL desk. I think that's the only thing I would change because that would kind of be the official point to say like, look, I'm sorry I can't do this, and this event because I'm doing the main event. I'm still
Right.
at a point where I'm like B tier talent, like right there. Um, which is good and bad. Good because I do get to work still in all these small scale events, but also bad because those events take a lot more out of me than working the main events would, surprisingly enough. That's just
Right.
how grassroots things get. So I like where I'm at right now. I don't have a lot of complaints. There's a lot going on in terms of being not different versions of myself, but getting into the right mentalities to be the best coach I can be, then to be the best caster I can be, and then to step back from all of that, look at paperwork on top of paperwork to be an analyst. It is a lot and it sounds like a lot, but I think right now the balance that I have because of the support network around me, I have no complaints about.
For sure. That's awesome. That's really good. It's nice to hear that you, not just a one man show and you're hoping for the best on everything. Like you have like a good like set that kind of catches you and be like, all right, bring you back and now let's get back out there.
Absolutely.
Now, I guess the advice I usually ask is, and you're so young. I mean, 2 years out of high school or something.
Just
I
half,
us-
yeah.
2.5, yeah. I usually ask, what advice would you give your younger self post esports? Um, I want to ask that first, and but then I also want to ask, what advice would you give your older selves? I can
Lord.
look back and go, oh God, what advice does my younger self want me to do?
Yeah. To my younger self, I didn't know that with a little bit of initiative, you could go a really long way. If I would have started with as much work like my sophomore and junior year of high school, as much work as I'm putting in my freshman year, I do think that I would probably be, I don't want to say it egotistically, but if I would have had a few years worth of head start, I think I'd be a lot higher up the chain than I am right now. And
Mhm.
that's like a slight regret, but I can't complain. It's the way things worked out.
Yeah,
So I wish I would have had more initiative earlier. But again, I was like 17, so I'm not too surprised. Um, so I definitely just go ahead. Like, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what your skill level is. Like, put yourself out there, get to work, and then just keep your head down and then get moving. That's what I would have said to my younger self. To my older self, value yourself. Like, I had a really, really long dialogue internally about where I stand in this scene, because I never ever will sit here and say like I'm the fifth best caster in Collegiate Rocket League, or like I
right,
would never sit here and picture myself in a specific spot because this scene moves so quick, and it's more about that I aspire to reach the top rather than that I know that I'm close to it, if that makes sense.
for sure.
So know your own value to my older self, but never ever get ahead of yourself. That's one thing that I pride myself in. Is
That's
that
awesome.
nothing's nothing can be taken for granted.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's very cool. That's crazy. I feel like you're whenever you talk about, "Oh, like, I would wish I do something at 16 and 17." I think you're actually doing what you need to do for your 25-year-old self, 5 years down the line.
I'm still
Esports is
ahead,
gonna
luckily.
change.
Yeah.
Yes, you are definitely ahead of the curve, which is, like, the coolest thing that any 20-year-old could be doing. When I was 20, I was just slacking. I was 3 jobs. Esports wasn't a thing. So you're doing great. I think that's it. I think that's everything I've got to say. Yes, yeah, because we asked.
I don't think there's anything else major.
No, no, you did great. Fantastic. I had fun. I wish I could talk to you more for hours. Maybe the next podcast will deep dive into after control, right? CRL. And we will deep dive even more into something you can talk for hours for. I know you mentioned it
Yeah.
and you were like, I could spend hours talking about it. So
Yeah, definitely be there. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me.
awesome. Where if what is it called? I'm starting to brain fart.
Which thing?
Um Socials would are yours for people to find you.
I believe I am DJTJRL on everything. Other than my Instagram. My Instagram's just my name, it's just TJ Stevens with an extra J in the middle. But everything else is just DJTJRL. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, I believe YouTube as well, but I don't really use YouTube. Twitter and
Yet.
Twitch is where you're gonna see me the most. And then normally everything that I'm doing is always updated on my Twitter. So if you're following me on Twitter, then you know what I'm doing, including this weekend because I'll be doing the community broadcast for CRL. So
Yes.
that's gonna be a lot of fun. Very excited for that. But
I'm
yeah, so
excited for
DJRL.
perfect. I will put those in the show notes below, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the descriptions. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of this, and I will see you guys Friday. Bye. Awesome.